Where are we, dude?
It appears we have found ourselves in Area 62.
Area 62? What's that?
Mostly a state of mind and being emanating from somewhere within the Mojave Desert, but also a podcast sharing the culture of the high desert, beaming from Copper Mountain College in Joshua Tree. My protocols require me to state that the views you find expressed inside of Area 62 are the personal views of those participating in the podcast, not the official policies or positions of Copper Mountain College or the Copper Mountain Community College District.
Out in Mojave, under desert skies, lights are dancing where the secrets lie. Yucca Man's creeping, don't you blink an eye. Tourists gone missing, and we don't know why. UFO zooming, zipping to and fro. Aliens out here, putting on a show. Shallow graves hidden under desert glow. Magic and mystery, only locals know. Oh, Area 62, what you got for me? What you got? Signs in the sky and a mystery. LA tourists lost without a clue. Where'd they go? Something strange down in Area 62.
Your business or organization can become a sponsor of Area 62, and you can support the Mojave's Cultural Podcast for as little as $3 per month at patreon.com/Area 62. Area 62, beaming to you from Joshua Tree in the Mojave Desert.
Wonder where they stay. Oh, Area 62, what you got for me? What you got? Signs in the sky and a mystery. LA tourists lost without a clue. Where'd they go? Something strange down in Area 62.
Discover a hidden local gem in Joshua Tree, Jorge's Cafe, in the 300 quad on the campus of Copper Mountain College. Jorge's is a great place to get breakfast, pancakes, French toast, breakfast burritos, omelets, and more, and lunch, salads, sliders, sandwiches, burgers, and more, along with lemonades, smoothies, Thai tea with boba, and so much more. Hours can vary depending on whether college is in session or not, so check out their website at www.jorgesmenu.com.
Oh, Area 62, what you got for me? What you got for me? What you got? Signs in the sky and a mystery. LA tourists lost without a clue. Where did they go? Something strange down in Area 62. Area 62, what you got for me? What you got? Signs in the sky and a mystery. Tourists lost without a clue. Where they could? Where'd they go? Something strange down in Area 62. Look to the stars, see the lights align. Woo! Magic's in the air, making us rewind.
Welcome to Area 62, the podcast of desert culture beaming to you from Copper Mountain College in Joshua Tree. I'm your host and producer, Shaunda McKinnon, and today my co-host is Area 62 executive producer, Steve Brown.
Hey, Shaunda, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Steve. Welcome. Today on Area 62, our guests are Greg Gilbert.
Hi there.
Hi. An emeritus English professor and retired trustee from Copper Mountain College. Greg founded the college academic senate and was the first faculty advisor for the HOWL Literacy and Arts magazine at the college. Now is 30th anniversary year. Greg has long desert history and is a desert writer, very involved with desert writing groups, and the author of Butchie's Rainbow.
That's correct.
With Greg, today is Ruth Nolan.
Hello.
Welcome, Ruth. The Mojave's poet laureate, a well-known poet, writer, and editor, as well as a one-time wildland firefighter and a long-time desert resident who currently is a professor of English and creative writing at College of the Desert. Greg and Ruth, welcome to Area 62.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's a real honor to be here in our desert home.
So, Greg, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I moved to the desert in 1992 and started teaching part-time at the college at that point. I'd been here for 2 semesters and a full-time position came up in communications. So I applied for it and was hired. And so we were not yet a separate community college. We were a campus of COD, and the library had just been erected the year before, so it was brand new. And so I spent a number of years teaching English and communications, and retired about 2012 and was elected to the Board of Trustees, where I served until my retirement just a little more than a year ago.
Wonderful. So, Ruth, can you tell us a little about yourself?
Hi. So I grew up in the Mojave Desert, just about an hour from Joshua Tree, over in Apple Valley at the Mojave River, and worked during my college years. I was going to Victor Valley College and then Cal State San Bernardino, like Greg. And I saw a signboard on a telephone pole when I was 19 years old saying, "Wildland firefighters needed." So you got to remember during those years, the early 1980s, there were not really any jobs in the desert except for fast food. So I thought, wow, I went to the training and I played high school tennis at Apple Valley High School. So I was able to do the work and worked for a couple years for the U.S. Forest Service Mojave Green Crew, and then went on to work for the Bureau of Land Management California Desert District Fire Station in Apple Valley on an engine and helicopter cruise. Ended up fighting fires all over the western U.S.
Wow.
And then a lot of it was due to sexual harassment on the crew as a woman. And I had to kind of make a decision in my mid-20s. Do I want to go into firefighting as my whole career or dive back into my English writer literary? So got into the teaching thing at Victor Valley High School, taught over in Phoenix at South Mountain High School, then went on to teach at Cochise College in Southern Arizona, and finally landed my current job at College of the Desert, where I'm going to retire in 2 more months.
Wonderful.
So, just had a lot of different things I've done, and it's been quite a ride.
Now, where was the wildland fire training that you got?
The first one was I guess it was an early version of the safety academies. I think CMC has one now. I know College of the Desert does. And many other community colleges offer firefighting, police, and other forms of public safety type of job training. So mine was at Victor Valley College, and it was a 40-hour training. And for me, it was pretty easy because I was already really outdoors and athletic. And the work was very hard. There's no way I could do it now, obviously.
It's very physical, it seems like, but obviously that's a necessity if you're going to be going into the backcountry fighting fires.
Yeah.
We have a very popular wildland fire academy here at CMC now, and it's incredible because you see half the class is usually hired before the class is actually over. That's how much demand there is for wildland firefighters now.
I'm so happy to hear that. We really need more people to go into these careers, not just starting with the seasonal crews, but also to take places in fire suppression. And we need educated people. It's not just grunt work. There's a lot of intellect and planning and all kinds of things. Even the act of firefighting is very teamwork oriented, takes a lot of skill and intelligence of reading the land and working with weather and conditions. That really heartens me to hear that about CMC.
It's really great to see people being interested in this because there's so much more to it than you're just going to go work a line on a fire somewhere. It opens up the doors to all sorts of different career aspects to firefighting that, planning, forecasting, logistics, air support, all sorts of things that, you can get into. But that's the thing with these career and technical education programs, that people think that, oh, yeah, it's just this. But actually, no, it opens up the door to a lot of different opportunities. Yes, Greg.
Yeah, we actually have kind of a Venn diagram going on here, I think.
We do.
Because I was in public service, public safety, for quite a while. I was on the San Bernardino Police Department in the 60s and 70s, and I was a 911 dispatcher and was part of the startup of the county system when it was just a radio with a microphone in a basement, library basement at 4th and Sierra Way in San Bernardino, and it grew in to the county 911 system. And that's how I put myself through college, was working as a 911 dispatcher for almost 10 years and going out to fire scenes and taking advantage of the great cooking that occur at fire scenes. And, yeah.
The fire camps.
Yep.
Well, they have to feed those firefighters well because, you're eating a steak dinner every night. And that's, burning probably 10,000 calories a day doing that work.
So I was going to ask, what got you into writing? Because writing, of course, has been at the core of my career as a journalist for decades. So I'm just curious, how did you get started with writing? What inspired you? Or do you remember when you first wanted to write?
Well, mine goes back to childhood. And I grew up in a family of boys, and I was always felt outvoiced. I still feel like that. My daughter has 3 boys. No, you never get away from that. So I remember my dad, my grandmother was from Ireland. And in our family, the family came to Brooklyn. And then there was a book that my dad handed me when I was a kid called A Tree Grows in Brooklyn by Ruth Nolan. And that's or the woman, the character in the book is Ruth Nolan. I'm like, hey, that's us. My last name's Nolan. And I remember reading that. It was just such a story about family and place and hope. The central image of that, the metaphor is the trees growing here, even though they're living in a slum. And so I think that's when it started. I just started writing little stories and this and that. And then when our family moved to the desert when I was very young, I just was so inspired by the surroundings. It's like the Mojave Desert just jumped into my soul. I was just a little kid. And there was nothing to do there, kind of like here now, sort of. So let's just go out and hike the mountain. There's nothing else to do. And that just somehow opened up a whole world of imagination to me. So as I got older, I've always loved to read and write. So the desert just was inescapable for me. It was sort of a core, and I've always felt this need to articulate something about it. I don't know why, I just feel very driven and passionate about that. I've got to share something about the depth and the complexity and beauty of this and importance of this desert. I think that's kind of where it came from. So it's just been a lifelong type of thing that keeps evolving.
I guess because I grew up in a household where my mother was a reader, and that was a big part of it. And I was an only child who was constantly lost in my imagination, and that's true of me even still. But the time that I really became a writer was after I suffered a fairly serious injury on the police department and was out for almost a year, actually 13 months, back surgeries, and pretty much had to stay stationary during that time. And I just started reading, and I read just about everything by Kazantzakis, and I read Steinbeck, and and in there, then I started reading philosophy. I read Being and Nothingness, which was an amazing thing to take on, but I had time, and there's more of my own notes in the book than there are of the printer's ink. And somewhere in there, I decided I had to write. I just had to try. So I wrote an existential novel. It's the title is laughable when I look back, but it was The Shadow Cast by Nothingness. And essentially, it's this novel that is it starts out with this guy named, of course, Frederick, who is, just suffering from ennui and existential nausea. And so a lot of the book is me just mining that kind of psychology for everything I can. But eventually, he winds up becoming a Hermann Hesse character who winds up finding completion in the garden of his childhood, and it's sort of like this Buddhist ending. It was somewhere in the vicinity of 115,000 handwritten words. And I still have it. And it's as bad as you would want it to be. But it got me started. And after that, I started taking classes at San Bernardino Valley College, got involved in the literary magazine there, et cetera, and I've just kept writing. So here I am.
Wonderful. So can you tell us, Greg, a little bit about some of the things that you have published already?
Well, I've had poetry published everywhere around. If it's a college magazine, I'm probably in it. And I've been published in Troy and Needles a good deal. And then I have Butchie's Rainbow, which is an effort on my part to come to terms with my childhood. And I'll just say this about memoir writing, is that it started out with me whining about the things I went through with my alcoholic parents and being an only child and the divorce I went through and all that. And by the time I finished it, I had fully developed characters who weren't bad guys after all. And the protagonist of the book is really this little boy who hardly has anything to say except he's observing and watching, and the characters kind of unfold and introduce themselves. So this was a lesson for me in that I've known for a long time that writing is a way of thinking and that it makes new connections in your mind. And if you put it on the page, you've got a hard copy of your thinking that can be revised and built on. And all of that changes the landscape of your brain. And in doing that, in writing Butchie's Rainbow, I came to love my parents in a way that I never would have otherwise. And I became to love the child that I was in the book in a way I never had before. Now I'm working on a book that is about a librarian in Florida. The seas are rising. His basement is flooding. He's having to sell books, move books upstairs. And the censorship that's going on, the local authorities have declared that his library will be the repository for all banned books. So as you can see, it's between floodwaters and an excess of books. He's overwhelmed. And it's him trying to deal with all of that. And that book will be finished up within the next month or so.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, I also see that you have a publication in the HOWL. Could you tell us a little bit about the HOWL as well?
I had the idea that we ought to start a poetry magazine at the college back many moons ago. And there was these go-getter students that were here at this time. And Kathy Baker, who went on to have a different last name and became Kathy Inscore, and Dina Gast were here with me, and they just took the ball and ran with it, and I just tried to keep up. So HOWL came out, and the foundation here at the college helped support us, and the local community chipped in on it. And so we got the first one out, and it was well received. And now 30 years later, we're still putting them out, and I still remain very grateful to the foundation for making this happen. And we've had 5 or 6 editors over the years, and a number of the writers have gone on to become teachers at other universities and colleges, published poets and authors, and they look back to this magazine saying it got them started. And I would just add to that as a student, if you can publish, that's a golden line on any kind of resume that you have, that you're published. So I'm very proud of the magazine and that the college has stayed with it all these years.
Now, I also see that you were on a board with the Morongo Unified School District. Can high school students, middle school, and elementary students get involved with the HOWL as well?
Over the years, they've been invited to, and some have worked on our staff as volunteers, and some have published. And since I've retired, I haven't had an active voice in saying what the HOWL will and won't do. But I think with our present editor, I have a hunch that that's very likely true because she seems to be inviting the community to participate. So what I understand, it's students first, and then others are welcome.
Right, and it's Tiffany Chen, Professor Chen this year, who teaches communications here, and she was recently actually representing HOWL at Morongo Unified's literacy event, annual literacy event. She was there, she was enthusiastic, and she was happy to represent.
Wonderful. Now, do you care to share some of your stuff from the HOWL?
Oh, I could.
Yes, right.
Apparently, you found something I'd care to share.
Cool.
Now, a little backstory on this, just because it's going to embarrass last year's editor, Rob Wanless. I helped do the layout for Rob. Rob was the editor for HOWL. He took care of all the hard stuff. I just put it on pages. But we were going through the final edit. He signed off on it. And then I was like, I don't see Greg's name in the contents here. But I thought he had a poem in here. And it turned out that yours was the one poem that had somehow been left out of the table of contents up until the last thing. And I luckily just happened to catch that. And we set it straight. So, Rob, if you're listening,
Oh, Rob.
we just like to give Rob a hard time because he's a great guy. And we kind of miss him actually around here. So, yeah, let's read us something, and then we'll get on to Ruth and hear her history stories.
This one is entitled Fish Scales. There are, on these occasions, among countless occasions, but nevertheless occasions, when fish are swimming across the floor. Fish beyond count, little fish that dart back and forth, and every step I take must be slow and deliberate, to avoid a little murder of innocence. The world is growing callous, contracted and provincial. My stepfather once said that each of us is a battery with only so much energy allotted before we succumb to the eternal so what. All this money and righteousness masquerading as freedom, freedom to recast history as a triumphant march from one king to another, freedom to add small print to the great commandment and eclipse it with Cyrus or nationalism or some such rendering unto Caesar, freedom to recast open-hearted love as a deviant's piety, freedom to monetize loyalty, not enough, mind you, for a house or medical expenses or eggs, the abundance of a once prosperous job-creating middle-class majority, but enough, just enough, along with a little thrill of subservience to the fishers whose hooks are cast from towering banks.
Wonderful.
Wow.
So the fish are biting.
Very well evoked.
Yeah.
Yes, that was very nice.
So, Greg, I didn't even know you wrote poetry. I just thought you were a prose guy.
Oh, well, thank you.
So it was wonderful to
Yeah.
hear that. And keep going. You know, and there's nothing that says somebody has to be limited to one genre.
Well, and you write prose.
Yeah, I do it all.
You do it all, yes. There you go.
See?
So, Ruth, can you tell us a little bit about what you have published and, because I know you have quite a bit.
Well, probably one of the more well-known pieces that I published is a book that I edited and put together for Heyday Books back in 2009 and for the Inlandia Institute. And this was sponsored by Santa Clara University California Legacy Series Books. So Heyday Books out of Berkeley was doing a lot of anthologies, very specific to California culture and geography and history. So I just had the nerve to pitch the book to the publisher, Malcolm Margolin. He's like, sure, go ahead. And it turned out to be a lot of work, of course. And I took a whole sabbatical year from my teaching job at COD to do it and managed to compile a lot of great classic desert literature and unknown desert lit and organize it into thematic units. And the original idea was to make this an educational reader for students who live in the desert. So speaking of CMC and COD, they've always kind of been intertwined. In fact, they used to be in the same district until 1999. So I was just sort of a labor of love and my own interest in desert literature and the desert. And then after that, I started publishing more of my own writing. So I was asked to write for KCET Artbound Los Angeles, and also went on to do some pieces for their Tending Nature series. Very involved with Inlandia Institute. I co-founded their creative writing workshop, which is still going to this day. And just published a lot of poetry here and there, different journals and anthologies. And I've had essays appearing in different books, including the Writing the Golden State Anthology, which was just published in 2024 by Golden Angel City Press in LA. And currently working to finish my memoir about firefighting in the Mojave. And then I have several poetry books, including After the Dome Fire, published in 2022, and then Ruby Mountain, published 10 years ago now. So as I move into retirement, 2 months, the whole writing thing is just going to go full steam ahead. So hopefully I can get more works and dedicate myself to publishing maybe more collections of writing by desert writers, such as Steve and Greg. And just, there's been a lot of stuff that's been published since the Puritan book came out in 2009. So really looking to just keep going in that direction.
Well, I just want to add that No Place for a Puritan is the anthology that everyone in the desert should have a copy of. It should be used as a textbook for desert literary studies. It's a fantastic compilation of desert writing. I don't know how you did that. I mean, you pulled together so many different sources.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got the classics, Mary Austin, you got Joan Didion, but you've also got a lot of relatively now anyway unknown writers, and of course you're responsible for me going out and like rummaging around trying to find these out of print desert books that I can add to my library. And I know you also inspired a good friend of mine, the late Paul Smith, who had a huge collection of desert books, both nonfiction and of course desert literature. And Paul and Jane Smith, who ran the 29 Palms Inn and owned the 29 Palms Inn. So Jane died some years back, and Paul was devastated. Right. And then Paul finally left, and Meredith has donated their collection of desert books to the Greenleaf Library here on campus.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And so now it's inspired me to actually go out and get a stamp to mark all of my and my wife's desert collection of books, so that like when the inevitable happens, hopefully not too soon, but yeah, you never know. You're in the desert. You drive on Highway 62.
You never know.
You just don't know. That our collection can join Paul's and some others. I think the Bagleys donated some as well to the Greenleaf Library. And for folks who don't know it, if you're looking to explore the desert a little bit deeper, Copper Mountain College's Greenleaf Library is a great resource for you. And not only can you go in there and explore desert literature and nonfiction books about the desert history and geology and everything, wildlife, but also has a fantastic, it's small, but a fantastic collection of desert artwork as well, including John and Kathy Hilton's work, which
that's great.
If any of John Hilton's paintings ever disappear out of our library,
right,
I have an alibi.
That's all really great to hear. Loving to hear that there's such a great collection of classic desert literature here in your library. And another thing I was trying to do with my book, of course, was to add to the list the growing bibliography. I would hoping that would be a resource to add more titles and authors. And to really, this is so important. There's so many new people arriving here in the desert, as we know, that want to learn about the desert. And this is a great resource, is to check out the Greenleaf Library or start exploring some of these authors, because they all have something important to add to our knowledge, understanding, and the growing need for stewardship and care as the desert gets more and more trampled and used. So that's great news to hear.
No, but Ruth, you've had the rights revert to you for no place for a Puritan, correct?
Yes.
those excerpts are cleared with the appropriate publishing houses?
Yeah, we had to get permissions from everybody. That was a lot of work.
Yeah.
It was quite a learning curve learning how to do that. Some things we wanted to use, we could not find whoever had the rights. Some people's literary estates are held by a bank, or they're in some kind of weird situation where you can't get the rights. And other writers, you start realizing, like John Steinbeck, their stuff is widely published. They're very easy to work with. The minute you email them or whatever, they're like, sure, go ahead. It's only $100 to use a piece from his. So the whole idea of who gets published and how much kind of access we have to reprinting the works of different writers is quite an amazing and crazy and strange complex.
I just wanted to say that if you get around to wanting to republish this, because I know Heyday's not going to probably.
Yeah, they're on a whole nother track now with a new publisher.
Right. They've gone a different direction. But if you decide to republish this, consider working maybe with this little studio and seeing if we can't find desert people to read the appropriate entries.
That would be cool.
For an Audibles version.
That would be really cool.
That book, because it's a fantastic read. And then for the people that want to road trip and listen to it, they could just do it that way. And I think there's nothing much better than road tripping across the desert, listening to someone talk about where you're going or where you've been.
Cool desert literature that comes out of nowhere and just trips you out.
Yeah, from another time, another place, another perspective.
Like the Hunter S. Thompson piece that's driving through Barstow.
Yes, I'm still in trouble with Barstow for starting my travel feature on them with that. We were just outside of Barstow when the drugs took hold.
But such a classic gonzo journalism, Hunter S. Thompson.
It was fantastic.
Has to be in the desert book. There's no way around it.
Yep. It is a desert classic. I mean,
yeah, definitely.
So Ruth, do you care to share some of your, whichever one you would like?
Sure.
It's up to you.
Well, I do have a poem. So my book, Ruby Mountain, every poem in this book has some kind of association with wildfire, realistically, metaphorically, and I work in a lot of other subtopics with that. So this one, my daughter's in it. She's in her 30s now with 4 children, and she really doesn't like being in my poems, but she's probably never going to hear this. So. This one's called Teaching My Daughter to Put Out Fire, based on a true story. It isn't your typical scenario. A young mother who worked 7 years ago as a wildland firefighter, driving her Jeep today in 4-wheel drive up 3 and 14 from the desert on the back road to Big Bear with her daughter, 5 years old, to reach the Rattlesnake Fire burn zone, one of the first fires she ever fought. This is another July day, just like the one not long ago. The mother wants to see for herself tragedy, loss, what happened after the fire, what comes next. How does the mangled landscape look today? What, if anything, remains of the Joshua and pinyon trees? What bird sounds filter now through the barren air? Maybe a western jay. Fire thrivers they are. What reference points are left to negotiate by without the Jeffrey pine or live oak? Without the juniper, she worked on this fire. She watched it burn away. Huge boulder scatter revealed ominous ghost wails rising from the heavy smoke. She wants to reassess, look for signs of life, now that so much has been taken away. One careless toss of a cigarette, one careless finger on a trigger. Her daughter's father locked away, his best friend dead. Some things have been destroyed forever, cannot be replaced. And in their place, some new things have been saved, and many new and strange things grow in this space that needs to be filled somehow. There are many years yet to live. Will there be birds, ravens? Will there be mountain wildflowers, flowers suckling the darkened dirt? Perhaps a few deer negotiating their way across a moonscape on their way to a small spring, if there's any water left. Jackrabbits hopping in and out of the slowly dying and grotesquely regrowing Joshua trees. And before they reach the lonely place, the mother trying to make this just another innocent day, they stop at an empty campground, Horse Thief Spring, so the daughter can run and play. And the daughter spots at first a wisp of smoke tickled by the light wind and rising. A careless camper, a campfire not put out. So the mother reaches for her army shovel and hands her daughter a bottle of water. We have work to do. This is how you put out a fire, she says. Before it has a chance to erupt, look for the small things. A wisp of sultry smoke, a gleam of orange eyes, seduction of tiny flame. Just keep stirring and pouring little bits of water. It will go away. This is where it will stop. Nothing more will burn here today.
That was beautiful.
Thank you.
That was beautiful.
True story. And it, even now, I mean, as a former firefighter, I'm just always on the look for this kind of stuff. And I'm sure a lot of us real desert nature people are. And it's just shocking how many times you see somebody leaving a campfire not put. And this is a big problem here locally. We've had several major fires in the park just in the last year.
Yeah.
And they've had devastating impacts on the Joshua trees. And
Wow.
Yeah, the last one
just
was
vigilance
not too long ago, and
near Black Rock.
yeah, the guy was out camping and he thought he would burn his toilet paper, and he burned about 1,700 acres, I think it was.
And a lot of it was prime Joshua tree habitat.
Yeah.
So even like the smallest thing, part of what I do as a writer and educator is trying to we're so flammable here, and we all have a responsibility,
Right.
to just don't do stupid things out there. And just most of all, let's just not even have fires out here. We live in a fire zone here. It's pretty serious.
Yeah, I'm very paranoid about it. I actually, my wife and I were actually going to go hiking in Joshua Tree National Park one day, some years back, and some teenagers had been out camping and they had started a fire, and it had just started when we got there, and I saw the smoke, and I called the rangers, and the rangers come out and they're treating me like I started the fire. And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
But I don't want it to burn.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's something that I'm trying to address in my writing is, the need for stewardship. There's so many more people coming here now and living here, and everybody has to be a steward. We're going to lose what we love if we don't. You can't just go out there, let's go party and do mushrooms. I know even the LA Times had a story about that. I'm like, come on. But, bring your shovel and your water and just think about, we don't really need a fire. Just do your thing and be vigilant. Take care of the desert.
Thank you so much for sharing,
Sure, you're
Ruth.
welcome.
That is, and thank you for, all your years of service of, being a firefighter alone is a lot. It's a lot of sacrifice that you have, especially with your family. So tell me, what was that like, having your family, and still going out and putting out fires, and then you have to come home and be a mom.
Well, actually, I did it before I had my daughter.
Okay.
And that was another thing, I was getting to where I was getting, my mid-20s, and there's no way, I could be jumping around out of helicopters and doing what I did. I don't think I would feel safe as a parent doing that. So my whole life just kind of changed, and then I went into being a teacher and all that. But I don't think my parents really cared. I think maybe there'd be parents, especially of daughters, that would be, oh. But, I think it's really important for women. This is another thing in my writing and teaching is that women definitely belong and deserve to be out there on those jobs, and all the jobs that have been historically designated for men, in which women experience very commonly a lot of really rough treatments. And there are actually a lot of inmate crews fighting the fires. And I worked alongside women inmate crews, which a lot of people don't even know. There's a lot of women inmates out on the fire lines who do really important work. So let's, give our hats off to them. And they don't make very much money. The pay is very low. It isn't just all these, in the news you see the big white guys. No offense to guys. But it's always men. It's always the white guys. And this is such a stereotype because there's so many other people out there.
Our crews are really diverse in the
Good.
Wildland Fire Academies. We have women. We have everybody from every background you can think of.
Good.
They learn to work together as a team.
Yeah.
And I know our instructors for that are, very experienced in wildland firefighting. And so they use their personal connections to connect these students with who they think they would work well with. But they also instill in them this thing that, you're working together as a team. And if you're not a team,
Right.
you can die.
100%.
Right.
And so it's intense watching them train, and deploy the emergency shelters.
Have you tried that? Have you tried to get in your shelter in less than a minute, Steve?
No, I've watched other
should.
people.
It's fun.
It's great fun to watch them.
Well, I want to touch on something. Greg and I were talking before the interview about all the Venn diagram overlaps between a lot of the stuff we've done in our, police work and fire work and teaching and writing. And, since we're doing this interview at CMC, and I'm from COD, and we have a lot of overlaps. I also started the literary magazine Solstice for College of the Desert, and everything Greg has said about what this means for our community building and students is so applicable even at our community college. And this whole idea that these kind of careers, the firefighting, police work, public safety academy, even the literary magazine and all that it entails, is such a form of community building and inclusivity that are some of the strong hallmarks of what a community college is and why our community colleges are so important to our communities. To bring people in of diverse backgrounds, to build teamwork. A community college, I see it is a teamwork. And it's just wonderful how we have people from so many different walks of life coming in. So we need to really celebrate this, and anybody listening that we really support and find ways to participate in our community colleges and our programming and events.
When I first moved here in 92 or 93, I went to the grocery store. Any place you would go, gas stations, night spots, anything, people bragged about the college they'd built. All three Rotaries in the area had worked together. Pioneer Women had hosted a quilting bee and had auctioned off a quilt. A lot of that was seed money that just inspired the building of their own college right here at home. And even the Marines, General Reed and Marines came out and did a grading drill at the site that we're at now, which had originally been supposed to be an area high school, and it didn't work out, so it became Copper Mountain College. And it was just all these people pulling together, raising money. It's the only college in California. There's, I think, 116 in the system, the largest community college system in the world. And this is, I think, the smallest or second smallest one, but it's the only one that had a foundation ahead of it being built. And when I started here, a lot of those original pioneers were still here, and they all had that vision, shared vision of a community, of something here at home for everyone. And some of them are still with us, like Owen Gillick, for example, who, was the person who oversaw our foundation for years and was one of our second trustee that we had when we had a board of trustees that was part of College of the Desert. So it's always been about the community here in ways that you hardly see anywhere else, and that it's such a small college and that it's worked so earnestly for everyone. I think of the student governments going back to the beginning, and that HOWL was a natural outgrowth of that kind of energy back then. So, yeah, what you're saying.
Well, yeah, and I also draw a lot of parallels having CMC was part of the College of the Desert. And, even my time at College of the Desert, things have changed, but, that was the only game in town. Students had to drive to Riverside at the nearest just to go to school. And we serve primarily, many of our students from the East Coachella Valley are Latino immigrant farm working community, which had been marginalized. And just being able to give a platform and a voice and a stepping stone and a sense to build and represent community through all of our programming and also through our literary magazine also with Solstice. The impacts of these kind of things in underserved, remoter communities in the desert cannot be underestimated. It's so important, and I just wish, anybody hearing this that maybe might be more recent arrival to the desert, or you're from LA and you're used to having all that infrastructure built in, just how much it's a grassroots effort out here and the level of participation and support and respect required to actually, understand how important it is to have this in these small desert places.
I know it gave me a community when I came here. My wife was a student here in 1986, and she's the reason I'm here today, I'm here because of her. She said, why don't you go out there and see if maybe you can teach a class? And I remember standing on the campus, looking out at the way the land slants out above the national park, and I just fell in love with it and thought, could I really be here 30 years from now? And here I am, and I'm so happy about it.
It's a wonderful story. You're falling in love with the desert.
Yeah, I
It's
did.
a very, very common trope here, and it's just so wonderful to hear you speaking of that because it's so heartfelt and long enduring.
I moved from the forest to the desert, and it was surprising to find out how much I liked being out from under the canopy and able to see the open plains around me.
Well, that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about here. I think a lot of people would agree with that.
So Gilbert, can you tell me a little bit, because I know you said you actually were one of the professors here. Was there like a creative writing that you did when you were teaching here at CMC?
Well, so we did HOWL, and we had a literary society that met twice a month, and we would have a shared reading one time, and then the next time we'd share our creative writing. And I had just these remarkable sort of village elders who somehow came out to the college and wanted to be part of it. One woman, Savia Lee, wrote about a book about the years that she worked with Georgia O'Keeffe and when she lived in the village and the affairs she had with some of the artists there and everything. Wonderful book. Her name was Savia because Rajneesh gave her that name at one point. And her husband was a retired English professor. Anyway, there were just so many people. One person who had worked on the Manhattan Project, Dr. Sachs, and he wrote a book while he was with us. And I could name a half a dozen of these sort of village elders who gathered around the college in our writing group. And together we worked on HOWL, and we had our literary society. And it was just years of writing for each other and to each other and reading each other, and it was golden.
That is so amazing. It's such a great way to get students involved in the community overall. That's exciting. And Ruth, can you tell us a little bit about your creative writing that you did with students and the community as a whole?
Yeah, so I've created many programmings in the Coachella Valley, but also up here over the years. Through College of the Desert with our Solstice Literary Magazine, we have done a lot of readings and events across the desert in the Coachella Valley, and even had a little bit of overlapping up here. I'm not so much we've done anything with HOWL, but we had some interactions with the Cholla Needles magazine, and I did put together a reading just before COVID at College of the Desert where we had readers from the Cholla Needles coming down to read with some of our students, and we had a lot of good people really enjoyed that event. And I also teach for the Desert Institute, so I've created some public programming and readings through that, both local writers and people that are visiting the desert. So just, I think, also been really excited to see some students taking it farther. So if anybody's interested in going, there's a group called Props to Poetry, which was started by one of our Solstice magazine editors and contributors, Arturo Castellanos. He's actually spoken at the Desert Voices. He's been one of the readers up here. And they do a lot of great programming down in the Coachella Valley with sort of a younger, like more younger generation bent, which can be very fun, spoken word and music. I also really had the pleasure last year of bringing Lee Herrick, our state poet laureate, to Copper Mountain College. I know Greg was there and did a wonderful presentation and talk with a lot of students came to that. So I'm really hoping to continue to do that kind of programming. Now that I've lived up here in Joshua Tree, I moved up from the Coachella Valley just a year and a half ago. So I'm really, planning and hoping to do more to serve CMC also.
Should I ask here, aren't you the Desert's Poet Laureate?
I am. I'm Mojave Desert Poet Laureate also. And we'll be representing our area in a forthcoming anthology being put together by the California Arts Council.
How exciting.
And hoping and planning tentatively to do a program here to maybe bring in some other poet laureates from this region, if we have anybody else.
How exciting. Now, let's say someone in the area or even out of the area would, have this desire to be a poet or just publish and start writing. What kind of advice that you would give to a writer?
You want me to?
Yeah. For both of you.
I wanted to mention a couple of opportunities up here. We do have Choya Needles, which is an independent publisher in the area. Rich Seuss started it. It is beautiful. It's really high level. Of course, we have HOWL. We have the Mojave Sage Writers that meets the second Saturday of every month here at the college in the library from 1 until 2:30. And the purpose of Mojave Sage Writers is to put writers together with readers. And it's well attended, and we have readings that we host. There's the 29 Palms Book Festival, which is a major event. It'll happen in this coming November, and it will, the last one had over 100 writers and over 700 visitors. We have the Desert Split Open mic that's Susan Rukeyser hosts, and that happens regularly up here.
She's on a bit of a hiatus. They're not doing the monthly programming they were, but she is having a few things here and there.
So the high-low, it was part of that in a way?
No, I'll talk about that in a second.
Oh, okay. Oh, Jackrabbit Journal is a
That's a
local
new literary
journal
magazine,
that just got started by Natalie Raymond. Yeah. And anyway, there's Raven's Books, Desert General, and Space Cowboy. So we really are a community that's about writers and literature up here, and it's very active. And the Desert Writers Guild, which meets at the Little Lutheran Church by the post office in Joshua Tree, the first and third Thursday of every month. And I'll tell you the caliber of writers we have. We have writers, like you're talking to today, wonderful as we are. But there's also people like, let me get his name here, 1 second, Francis Moss. If you don't know who Francis Moss is, he's the one that wrote the Ninja Turtle series and did She-Ra, Iron Man, DuckTales, Teenage Ninja Turtles, and he wrote Losing Normal, She-Wolf, and Operation Overlord. Really just remarkable. And these people come to our meetings. They share their writing. They're part of our local community of authors. So anybody who wants to be involved at this, and Mojave Sage Writers loves the students of Copper Mountain College and HOWL Magazine. They want to host readings that include the students. And so there's a lot of opportunity for writers if they want to reach out to us.
Thank you so much,
That's
Greg.
such a resource. I'd like to add a few things. So that's just a lot, and it's continually a growing list, growing amount of resources here. And the Desert Institute at Joshua Tree National Park is actually offering some creative writing programming. And I'm personally myself planning to start some kind of community writing workshop here, probably in the fall. So I will get the word out on that. It'll be everybody's welcome. You don't have to be. A lot of people come in workshops like, I can't write. I'm like, yes, you can. Just start doing it. And everybody writes, and no pressure. We're not in school. This is sort of an extracurricular. Let's enjoy our time together and have fun writing as a community. So if you're interested in those other events, reach out to me if you want.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Now, for both of you, I'll start with you first, Greg. How can people find out more about your publications as far as purchasing them?
Well, my books are available on Amazon. And Butchie's Rainbow was originally published by Choya Needles. I decided I wanted to do a second edition, and I formatted it myself and put it up. It's a very doable thing to do. Did you hear a strange sound there?
I did.
There's the enlightened sound.
That was my camera at my front door at home. I'm sorry.
That's cool. That's a cool sound.
It sounded like the angels were coming down to join us.
They are.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, the book is coming to life.
So it's pretty cosmic, evidently. This
Yes.
book.
It's a desert thing.
Yeah,
It's a visitation.
Everything
my
goes through my hearing aids. I'm sorry.
No,
It's-
hey, it you know what? It came at a perfect time because you were talking about your book. So
Yeah,
it came
man.
at a perfect time. Okay, well, thank you so much. And Ruth, how about you? How can people, find out more information about, your publications as far as purchasing them?
Just Google my name.
Okay.
A lot of stuff comes up, apparently. My brother just sent me this. He was kind of making fun of me. He's like, you're all over the internet. But there is a lot of stuff that pops up I don't even remember doing, like, oh, yeah, I remember that. 20 years ago. But yeah, the Heyday book, you have to kind of look around. It's become one of those little cult things where if you're really into desert literature, you might find a copy used on Amazon or eBay. And just Amazon probably. I know my other poetry books are on Amazon.
I was really curious, though, because I know how the desert affects me creatively, but how does the desert work on you creatively as writers, poets?
Well, to me, it's my total muse, like it or not. It just started when I was a kid, out of necessity, when your parent just plucks you out of... I'm from San Bernardino originally, too. My mom grew up there, so we have more overlaps. But that was quite a trip, and that was like pre-internet, It felt like we were way out there, and we were stuck out in the desert. So it was that, I think what you were saying about the imagination thing. Your imagination has to help you out. And so for me, that just sort of became then everything else, all of my other thematic units, relationships, people, stories, that all kind of somehow filters through that. So I guess for me, I was just lucky that was kind of handed to me. I don't feel like I have to go out and look for stories. It's just kind of all there. It's just a matter of whether I can write them all out or not.
When I had the Sunrunner magazine, when I left Gannett, the USA Today company, I was news editor, of course, down in the Coachella Valley for the quote-unquote alternative weekly, Desert Post Weekly.
Yeah.
Don't look for it. You won't find it.
I remember reading that.
Yeah.
I remember reading your stuff, and it was really good.
It was a good time. We had a great crew. We did a lot of good work there, but it was back when websites were still kind of starting off, and Gannett didn't want to invest in a website for us. So it's very hard to find us now, our work that we did back then. The desert for me really affected a lot of my thinking, my spirituality, my whole being. And, it's just an interesting ride that way. And,
Sure. You're speaking to someone that
now,
been here their whole life.
I left Gannett, and then of course everybody left that newspaper because Gannett ruined it. But that's okay. That's another story for another day. But I wound up buying the Sunrunner magazine from Vicki Wade, of course, who had started it in 1995. I took over for my birthday in 2004. And when I got it, Mary Bono was in Congress back then. And her chief of staff was like, "The heck are you getting that for? Nobody in high desert can even read. There's nothing to write about up there." I was like, "You are so wrong." I told him, I said, "Look, if I put out an issue a month for the rest of my life and live to be 110, the list of stories and people that I wanted to get to would be longer when I died than when I started. There's so many great stories in the desert. There's so many great people and interesting people in the desert. There's fascinating places, histories, everything. I mean, there's no end to this story material here." And you guys know that. You guys work with that.
Well, it wasn't just the environment for me, though. That had a big effect on me. But I think coming to this college had part of it because I kept meeting the pioneers. I got on the foundation my second year here, and so I was able to meet a lot of people who had been pioneers and written books. The Loomis sisters, I had authors events in the library that I hosted at least a couple of times a semester. And the Loomis sisters were in their 90s, and they lived in Barstow for a while, but then they lived over by where the golf course is now and some apartments there. They remembered as children John Muir's sister lived next door to them. Mm-hmm. John Muir, the person on the California Quarter, the person who gave us our first environmentalist push. And there were Lucy, who wrote about sand in her shoe. And there are just so many people that were here. And so I kept doing these authors events, and people came out of nowhere and just wanted to read about the history of the place, the founding of the college and everything. And then because it's a little college, you get to teach everything. So I was teaching creative writing. Well, if you're going to teach creative writing, you better be producing creative writing. And so I just kept writing. And in there, somewhere between the quiet of the desert and the influence of the people around me and the things I learned that they saw in the environment that I still had to learn to see, and getting involved with Ruth and Steve Freeman and people who are the artists in the community, with Audrey Gillick, and so many people who were involved in the Landers workshops and everything. I just kept seeing the desert through all these different prisms, and I kept writing. And now I'm retired, and I can really devote my time to writing. So all of that, and being able to hike up the hills behind my house that look over Black Rock and just have that quiet, all of that combines in different ways.
I also want to say something. Maybe a lot of the newer arrivals here, I know kind of what you're saying about the looking down on the high desert. I still pick up on some of that, the locals are so dumb, and that's completely not fair, and it's not even accurate. There is a long legacy here of writers and writing community and very high quality work. Aldous Huxley lived in the Mojave Desert and wrote, and he's not the only one by far. I can't even recall going back to, say, the mid-90s, early 2000s, of lots of readings taking place at the Beatnik Cafe, for example, which has gone through a couple different incarnations over the years.
Teddy Quinn.
And I did a bunch of events there, and other people have done events there since. And what always impressed me, going back to 2010 when I did a Puritan event for my book, that the whole community turned up. It wasn't just writers that came. People from all stripes of the desert would be at these events, interested, and I really want to reiterate what you said about that, about the high interest in literacy, literary programming, writers and writing up here, as well as all the arts. It didn't just start, when people from LA started moving here. So let's just set that straight. It's been going on for a really long time, and they're building on what was already happening here that was very significant and still has resonance.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you know what? One day we'll sit down and discuss like the influx of people from outside the desert and
these are
how
discussions.
that affects. Yeah, they
it
are
needs
discussions.
to happen. There's a big need for that.
And,
some art discourse to be built.
And there is, and on a lot of different levels, and it's both controversial and it's actually matter of fact. For me, if you're coming to the desert, bring something to the party. That's all. Don't treat us like we're your Instagram backdrop.
Your doormat.
Yeah, because, people, there's a lot of room still in the desert for shallow graves. That's all I'm going to say. But
okay.
Before we go, I think it would be great if we could hear one more of your work each. All right, who wants to go first, class?
I'm going to read something short. So speaking of quirky, trippy desert people, characters that have traversed the Mojave over the years, Mary Beale, whose writing were featured a lot in the old Desert magazine, the Randall Henderson back in the 1940s and 50s, a very groundbreaking and important desert botanist who, as a woman, spent a lot of time coming out to the desert to look for species of plants. And she didn't discover them. Native American people knew about them. But in terms of the white world and all that, in botany, she was kind of a groundbreaker. And I thought it was pretty significant that she did that alone as a woman when there were no roads out here, just dirt. And so anyway, she's credited with discovering the ghost flower, which is a kind of a rare plant. Ghost flower for Mary Beale, desert botanist. Shivering by day, glowing at night, blooming only in early spring, this wildflower, identifiable by splotches of red, bound by a white heart, attracting lovers through mimicry, not actually producing nectar. Named by a woman botanist working alone in the Mojave. To render it bold and known, this small flower speaks with a lisp on rocky lips, forsaken cliffs, horrible washes where people get lost and die, but flourishing where no woman should go. And there she is, forever hard to find, unless you tiptoe by.
Nice.
Lovely.
Nice.
This was in the first HOWL. It's called Deconstruction. The night I quit my job, I watched archival footage of the bombing of London. Frame upon frame of antique destruction, focal points at the edge of being balance undone from on high. Windows reverberated, walls groaned, salt danced upon tables, tables jumped about like clog dancers, and strands of fat black sparrows splattered upon the scrubbed sills and tortured topiary of the empire. It was a miracle of disintegration. Stones of cathedrals, mortar of spent lives flung skyward. I wanted to fling myself across the shards and into the shocked sky like an epileptic marionette. All that creation undone, uncreated, all that upbraiding of order by order. I think of my childhood, 1950s California, how the parochial village of my classrooms sat at the feet of a whitewashed Lutheran church, and how behind the choir loft the great unseeable defined me as woefully finite, infinitely accountable. As I grew older, I overthrew or let dissipate a variety of deities, all turnstiles to more pragmatic gods, gods that are trackable. The day that I quit my job, I looked up from my life and lost balance. I understood the snapping point that overturns vending machines in the marketplace. I saw that the whole world rises with the mosque or a clock radio. I saw the shadowy corners of England exposed to the transcendent light of firestorms, and how the martyred Christ rose on an upsurge of brick dust and Eucharist. Now I know that Mass is a skin shed by velocity, that space-time geometry breaks down. Imagine a lens of light where time is not governed by matter, where brickyards leap into cathedrals, and the dead rise and run backwards through the streets, their screams rushing into their mouths, their chests swelling with fear. Imagine the walls flying together into exultations of thanksgiving.
Very nice.
Wow.
Thank you all both for sharing. And I want to thank you all both for coming in today. We enjoyed having you all today.
Well, thank you, and thank you to the students at the college for having an interest in what we're doing.
Thank you. It's been an honor to be here and a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's good to see you both.
You
Thank
too.
you. You can catch all the episodes of Area 62, the Desert's cultural podcast, and view all the Tiny Cactus concerts at www.area62podcast.com. Hi, this is Steve Brown, executive producer of the Area 62 podcast, beaming to you from Copper Mountain College in Joshua Tree. Did you know that Area 62 is produced and hosted by students from CMC, and your sponsorship or personal support for the Area 62 podcast supports students' involvement with media projects here on campus? This provides a wonderful opportunity for students to get hands-on experience in media production and journalism. You can follow, support, and sponsor Area 62 from Area 62's Patreon page at www.patreon.com/Area62. Thank you for your support for the student producers and hosts of Area 62.
Thank you for joining us in Area 62.